The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello and welcome to another live episode of Wrestling with Johners. I say that as that's something completely out of the ordinary, but all of my episodes are completely live, and I've got a fantastic couple of guests, a tag team, and none other than Benjamin Harland, Jack Knudsen, Act 2, and it's been nearly 2.5 years since Act 2 were last on the show. But gentlemen, thank you so much for being returning guests, and it's great to have you back on.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
We were just saying beforehand as well. It's been so long since I've seen you in person as well.
I know.
Like it feels like, you know, it's such a wrestling thing. Like we see someone weekly for months and then don't see them for a year. Like it's just.
Well, we were briefly chatting about this off air, and I think I was saying to Ben that the last time we saw each other in person, or the three of us saw each other together, was at United Wrestling at the Tap Social. The very same day you won the Elevation Tag Team Championships, the 5th of May, I think it was, and you fought the Dogs Bollocks that day. But that was an eventful day, going from winning the Elevation Tag Team Championships to facing the Dogs Bollocks for the United World Tag Team titles. So a bit of a bittersweet day, but I mean that day in particular has got to be a bit of a highlight of your year so far, surely.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
Come away with all the titles. But yeah, so much fun, and that's like we've been very lucky recently to have a lot of those like stressful couple of shows in a day, straight in the car in your gear. And it's slightly stressful, but it's always fun to like. I think it's another skill to try and be able to get stuff sorted that quick and get somewhere, and then have to go out and have your match and then go to the next place. But yeah, it's a cool stress, and it's like a fun rush to have.
Absolutely. And like I say, we will touch on all of that. We'll talk about Elevation. We'll talk about United Wrestling. We'll get into all of it. But of course, we are live. So if you are tuned in and watching us live on X, on Facebook, and on YouTube, then thank you so much. And feel free to interact with the show. Get in touch with Act 2, Benjamin Harland, Jack Knudsen. Send us through your questions and any comments and any highlights, any personal highlights of yours as fans of Act 2 from over the years. And of course, the last time we spoke was about July 2022, so not quite 2.5 years. In the true wrestling sense, I'm kind of stretching the truth there slightly, but nearly 2.5 years. It will be 2.5 years come early 2025. But it's easier to say than however many months. But I'm going to bring up some pictures here because here you are as the current Wrestling Resurgence Tag Team Champions, newly won, of course. And like I say, congratulations on all of that. But when you think about the last year, 2 years, it's been a thrill ride, hasn't it? And when we last spoke, you were really finding your feet on the UK scene, just starting to branch out. I think you just become the Sacrifice Pro Saints of Sacrifice Tag Team Champions, and that's how far back it was that you two were last on the show. But the last couple of years, if you can kind of sum it up into a nutshell, it's been a journey for the two of you, hasn't it?
Massively. Like I think we're just different people in general as well from then. Yeah. Like to kind of look back on the past couple of years, if you would have told us, let's say you had a crystal ball in front of you in the last interview and told us like half of the things we've somehow managed to go and do since then, like it's honestly quite baffling. It's like it's very difficult to sum up sort of in just a few sentences, but I want to say like just how kind of lucky we both feel. I feel like I can speak for Jack as well, where you know this is kind of everything we hoped for, and we're still running as well, not done yet, but yeah, just being able to meet these goals that at one point did seem kind of out of the realm of possibility has just been insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the first go ahead, Jack, please. Sorry.
I think really you could put it down. I think we both feel just very fortunate. Like I think whenever we kind of have a minute and we do something cool, just like Resurgence the other week or all the cool stuff we've done since we last spoke, it's always just we just kind of feel real fortunate to be a part of the scene right now and being able to do things that we're doing. And it just seems like it's another cool thing after another cool thing. And like, it's definitely not lost on myself and Ben, like how cool these things are.
So you do get a chance to sit back and reflect every so often, because I've spoken to so many kind of wrestlers, and like I say, it's just from one show to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's not until they appear on something like this and I flash up all the pictures from the past that they do get a chance to really kind of reflect and think, yeah, I actually did that and I forgot about it. But you guys kind of are in the present and do get a chance to kind of reflect and think about your accomplishments, achievements, and highlights almost as they're happening.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think we're very good at sort of grounding each other in that way. I think sometimes, like, if maybe one of us is so kind of like laser focused, and it's happened to the both of us, where the other one can be like, "Hey, how mad is this? Look at what we're doing." There's been a lot of moments in like backstages of venues and stuff where we're like, "Oh my god," just for that couple of minutes, you're like, "Wow, okay, we've managed to make it here. We must be doing something right." And I think it's super important to be able to do that as well, because it's so easy to kind of get lost in what you're doing, and like it's so easy to kind of just have that tunnel vision and that focus where you can't, like, it makes it way harder to step back and be like, wow, oh my god, look at actually look at what's happening. So being able to like ground ourselves and ground each other in that way is like super beneficial, I think.
I suppose that's the advantage of being in a tag team, where you've always got the other person to bounce off of, and not only to share ideas, but also to reflect and, like say, ground each other, so that you're kind of in the moment as much as you can be. I know you're typically known as a tag team, one of the very best tag teams in the UK, but I want to talk about a match where this happened, and you had Jack from the Bar versus Ben from the Bar at Pro Wrestling Chaos not too long ago, the 12th of October, if I'm not mistaken. And I got this as one of the first talking points, purely because I think it was one of the highlights of the year for the two of you. And you say it not being a tag team match, but the two of you going face to face. Now, I don't think you fought each other many times before. I seem to remember there being an occasion many years ago at the beginning of your career. I don't know if there's been too many occasions, if any, in between then and now. But this past October, a big occasion, Pro Wrestling Chaos, and the two of you get a chance to go out there and almost steal the show. You had an absolute banger. The reception from the fans in attendance was incredible. But tell us about that experience and the match, and going out there and having a wonderful match, not with each other, but against each other.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's kind of to touch on what you just mentioned about really like stopping and smelling the roses.
Yeah.
It's cool that me and Ben were like we've been friends for however long. Chaos is always a place that we've put in very high regard. It's very cool to now be a part of it, but it's something that me and Ben would watch old Pro Wrestling Chaos pay-per-views in lockdown on the phone, and we just like, oh my god, how cool is this? And it was always a real cool place that had great wrestling going on. And that was definitely like one of those times where we both kind of grounded each other and went, hey, like, yeah, we're stressed, and yeah, we want this to be good, and yeah, instead of tagging with each other, we're against each other. But definitely afterwards, it was a real nice, like, oh wow, we just got to wrestle your best friend in front of one of the best crowds in the country, in a match that we're both very happy with, and then you got to do it with your mate. So yeah, after that was another one, like your last question, of one of those moments where we both just got to go, oh, that's really cool that we got to do that.
Yeah, and a hell of a match. Ben, what are your memories from it?
To be fair, a lot of it was a blur, as in just beforehand, because I think being, as you said, we primarily work as a tag team. So I know I personally feel a little bit more pressure when I'm alone in that sense, and like in a singles capacity. So, and there is a lot of sort of pressure that I know we both put on ourselves. And it's kind of like heightened tenfold because of how much we value Chaos and the fans there and the people who run Chaos and things. And we really wanted it to be perfect. And I think, like, I'm incredibly happy with it. I know Jack is as well. And to, like he said, to be able to like get to do that with your best friend, it was such a it was such a, I'm struggling to word sort of the feeling, because it wasn't relief, but afterwards it was such like a crazy sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And just like a big, like, you know, when it was done, it was like, wow, we've actually done this. This is something we actually talked about however many years ago when we were watching kind of chaos shows, like working there and working together. So actually being able to do it, like, it's so surreal in the moment that you can only really process it after it's happened.
Yeah. And the reaction from the fans as well. I think it was at the King's Oak Academy in Bristol.
It was, yeah.
They're one of their usual locations, but the reaction from the fans, you guys absolutely tore it up. And I think you guys, like I say, you're well known across the UK and to Chaos fans as Act 2, but as individual wrestlers, as Ben from the bar and Jack from the bar, you definitely delivered for sure. But we've had somebody get in touch with the show. We've had Visage watching us live at home on YouTube. me. God, these boys. But they would do anything for them. Incredible wrestlers and people. Deserves the world. Act 2 versus United Kingdom.
Yes, please.
Definitely.
Oh my God, yes. Us.
Some promoter, make that happen. But Visage, thank you so much, and keep sending in your questions and your comments. But we love Visage on this show for sure. And thank you so much for watching. I want to bring up some more pictures now, because we want to talk about this here, and being the brand new Wrestling Resurgence Tag Team Champions. Now, I think this probably happened, maybe a couple of weeks ago, less than a couple of weeks ago, where it was a bit of a double shot, wasn't there? 2 shows, an afternoon show and an evening show, where you actually won the Wrestling Resurgence Tag Team Championships during the day against LA Taylor and Sky Smithson, and then defended them that same evening on show number 2 against Lykos Gym. So, I mean, another kind of incredible peach yourself bucket list dream day, really. We spoke about double shots earlier, but winning the Resurgence Tag Team Champions off of a kind of a long-time champions, Evil, Shred, I think they call themselves in Wrestling Resurgence, the experienced LA Taylor and Sky Smithson. So doing that on I think what was only your second match for that company, having debuted a few months earlier against the very same team on the losing end. But tell us about that day, because winning the straps against such a team and then defending them against Lykos Gym later on that evening, that must have been a really happy journey home after all of that.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's a Resurgence was a massive goal for both of us. Like, it was something we both saw and were like, okay, this is pretty much everything we love about wrestling in like one package for Resurgence. So getting the chance earlier this year to debut for them and stuff, we were like, okay, we have to put everything into this to come back, because it was everything we wanted it to be when we got there. It was everything we'd imagined it would be, and the production and the management and everything is just, like I said, sort of a complete package of what we love about wrestling. So to be able to go there and wrestle Evil Shred the first time was such a cool thing for the both of us. And then something else about fan reception, we were lucky, we got the Please Come Back chants and everything, and thankfully they heard you, because we managed to come back in November, and it all happened incredibly quickly. It feels like it's almost like snapped our fingers and we're taking that picture with the titles, but it was something that was such a huge goal for us and feels so cool to have finally accomplished. And I have to say about that photo specifically, this is something Jack mentioned on the day. Rob Brazier, Rob Brazier is absolutely incredible, the head drop on social media as a photographer, and he took that with my iPhone. And seeing him take a photo with an iPhone felt really criminal. And it's something Jack brought up on the day. And I didn't really consider it until afterwards. I was like, wow, that's insane.
William Regal to wrestle in a pub. Like, it's just, that's Rob Brazier.
My analogy was going to be completely different than that. Mine was going to be, it's like asking Picasso to use a Crayola. was going to be my.
There are a few more pictures anyway, and I think that these will probably feel taken on a slightly more professional camera. But as you were just crowned, congratulating one another, having your hands raised, and maybe not quite on the iPhone there, but some great shots nonetheless. But a hell of a day, and I think that was their last show of the year. They're taking a little bit of a hiatus until maybe February or March next year. But now that you're kind of well and truly in there, the Wrestling Resurgence fans have taken you to their heart. Obviously, you're their new tag team champions. Anybody kind of on the radar on the Resurgence roster that you might like to defend against or maybe work against in that sort of setting?
Oh, definitely. There's so many people. I think the talent at Resurgence is crazy from top to bottom. Like everyone there is unbelievable. On a more personal note, I absolutely hate man like Doris. So it'd be cool to wrestle Doris and just lever him.
Anybody but Doris, honestly. No.
Yeah.
To be fair, we are. Again, obviously, we're hoping to be at Resurgence for a very long time, and would love sort of to give somebody else the opportunity that we had as well, where they come in and head straight for the tag team titles. I know I would love the Moneywood Blondes to come back.
Yeah.
So Gene Money and Elijah in a toupee would be incredible. That's the dream. Charles Crowley being a freak. Bring it. Bring somebody, anybody you want with you. Charles Crowley and Candy Stan versus Act 2.
Oh,
yes,
my
please.
God. Please.
We need, actually, hear me out. Resurgence, if you're listening, Gimmick Battle Royal, the winners, face Act 2. Gimmick Battle Royal a la WrestleMania 17. So you got to have the most ridiculous people. I want non-wrestlers. I want Dave Bradshaw. He can go in it.
I'll go in it.
Yep, there you go. You and Dave Bradshaw versus me and Jack. Excellent. No, honestly though, we'd be incredibly happy to work with anybody there. The caliber of the locker room is just unreal, and it means a lot to us that we're a part of that.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, and obviously it's been over 2 years since you were last on the show, nearly 2.5 years. And in that time, you've really branched out. You're wrestling for some of the top promotions in the UK. You're wrestling internationally now, which we all talk about, and you're wrestling the biggest and best names. And you've become one of the very best tag teams in the UK as well. As I mentioned in my little promo video for you guys. But where do you consider to be your kind of biggest growth areas in the last couple of years in terms of where you've come on the most as a performer, as a pro wrestler, as an entertainer? I mean, starting with you, Ben, what would you say, what areas do you think you've come on the most in terms of growth since we last spoke, or certainly over the last couple of years?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. Wow. So
I'm glad you're first. That's a brilliant question.
I think personally, and it's almost a bit of a cliche answer, but the confidence I've been able to build over the past couple of years in my own work, I think has been some of the most beneficial for me. And obviously since the last time that we spoke, New Wave West Midlands opened up. And of course, Flash is someone we've been lucky to sort of have access to for a long time now, and to be able to sort of train under him weekly and train under, of course, Mark Haskins. And there's another coach, I forgot his name, but
we'll
three
talk
coaches
about him
there.
later.
Who could that be?
And to be able to train under those guys weekly and build and develop, as well as getting the opportunity to work with some of the absolute top names in the country, has just done absolute wonders for like my own confidence in my ability and in my work. And I really hope that shows now. And I think even kind of looking back at pictures and footage from a couple of years ago, I do think I present quite differently, and I do present as a different person. And Flash Morgan Webster will be incredibly happy that I tan now. And I think that's that would be his answer. His answer would be that I am now golden, It's it
So
shows,
golden.
which is it's
You're no
currently
longer
setting
pale
out.
and pasty. You are golden.
No, this lighting isn't really
Not doing you
doing me
justice,
much.
is it?
No, but
You tan? I'm
yeah,
tanning this evening.
I've
It's the
tanned. It's
lighting.
not washed off yet. So this room does smell a bit like fake tan, but
Great smell. Great smell.
you know, we work. I've got the one that smells like biscuits. It's really nice.
Oh, amazing. Danny Jones has one that smells like coconut, and it is stunning.
Oh,
That's the one you
For
need to
tough,
get.
scary Danny Jones, but God, he smells great.
What about you, Jack? What would you say have been some of your kind of biggest areas of growth over the last couple of years? And I mean, you've come on leaps and bounds as a tag team and as solo wrestlers, but is there anything that stands out to you as far as areas where you've really developed as an all-rounder? You're quite proud of your accomplishments in terms of where you are as a performer nowadays?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm always trying to evolve and get better, and it's kind of the curse of wrestling that you never. Like for me personally, it's very hard for me to be like, oh, I am good enough, and this is good enough, and like it's hard to constantly feel like okay about your wrestling because it is quite easy to get down about like little bits, and then you can't look at the big picture of oh well, it went well overall, but you just hold on to little things. But I definitely agree with everything Ben said. I also think like that confidence of like feeling better. I think definitely the last time we spoke, when I go back and I watch stuff from that, you can see that we kind of had the ideas and we knew what we wanted to do with stuff. But just the ability we didn't quite have to do it. And I also think the confidence to attempt those things and to put those things together, we also lacked. So I think the real big difference for us, I think obviously the more you team, the smoother you're going to get, the more crisp you're going to get, and the more you're going to come up with more and more inventive stuff and stuff that works for you. But I think the big difference that we've had is like the more we've done, the more confident we've been with it, and that confidence. Sometimes stuff still cannot be perfect, but we've got the confidence to kind of risk it and see if we can get it, and then eventually over a set amount of reps, we find what works and find what doesn't work. We're also fortunate enough to be in a position now where we're wrestling more. So we can go out and we can rep that and we can go, okay, well, this doesn't work, so move this to here. And maybe it doesn't work at all and we have to go back to the drawing board. But I think the biggest change we've had is in just confidence in what we do. And that's not just what we can do, it's also what we can't do, and being confident in, oh, well, we don't do this well, so we'll do something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think 2024 is going to shape up to be your busiest year on record, all-round tag team matches, and you throw in the solo matches there as well, but definitely your busiest year. Did you feel that Act 2, or maybe yourself as individual performers, this is the best version of Jack and Ben and Act 2 that we've ever seen?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think
absolutely.
We definitely attempt every time we go out to be better than the last time we were going out. Me and Ben, I think we'll both admit, especially when you're quite new to wrestling, you'll always compare yourself to other people. And I think a big like learning curve for us, and something that Flash kind of gave us, is just to try and be better than we were the last time we went out. And if each time we go through the curtain we're better, then hopefully by the next time you see us, we've got something more interesting and something a bit different. And again, it might not be massive changes every time, but I feel like if you look at where we were the last time we were on your show to now, those little changes have added up and added up and added up to be where we are now.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think we've tried our best to sort of make those changes in all aspects as well, not just sort of in the ring, but presentation wise and visually, and sort of the aesthetics of our entrance and entrance gear and the masks and things like that. It's all stuff that we've thought out as, okay, how do we start, knocking on the ceiling of the next level? How can we present ourselves to match what we believe we're doing in the ring? And I do really hope that's come across as well, sort of in visual presentation as well as the stuff we've been able to do like in ring wise.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the visual presentation. I've got a few other recent photos. There you are, the two of you. But you mentioned the masks. And here are the masks. So I want to ask you about it kind of reminds me, especially when you're making your entrance and wearing them to the ring, a little bit of maybe V for Vendetta, a little bit of a Clockwork Orange, maybe, I don't know. But give us the kind of, I mean, where did you find these first of all, and what's the genesis, what's the inspiration behind the masks, and what they add to your presentation and to your character compared to what we might have seen before?
So for me, I first learned about the masks. I did performing arts in college, and we did like a lot of mask work, and I always found it like a very cool concept. And then for in the team, really, Ben has always been more pushing where we're going next with like what Act 2 is as a concept and what it is as like an idea, to be like quite artsy about it, to put it in like quite a posh way. Like what is Act 2? What does Act 2 need to be? So from having that, obviously, Act 2 is the second act of something, would be like the important bit of a film or a play or whatever. And I think they're just another bit of like presentation that we can put forward. And it's hard as well, because then when you look at stuff like that, we try and, well, now we've lost this, which is you lose your face, which for saying we had one for a crazy amount of time in the entrance. But I think one of the things that people kind of connect with me and Ben, and some of the feedback that we tend to always get, is that we actually seem like mates, which we should be, because we're teaming, right? So, and that is where you show that you're friends with someone and they can see the camaraderie between us. So then we have to be worried, we have to be wary that you don't lose that. So the amount of time that we have the masks on is thought out and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, they were kind of always a concept that like was involved with us. Ben's had the masks on previous sets of gear and stuff, and then I think it was just before we went to Denmark for the first time, I think we decided that like we wanted to do a bit more with the presentation, and we could add the masks to it as just another thing to represent Act 2. I also think it's something that's just quite obvious. It's like that as a picture is more obvious of what we are than if you just see this of me and Ben. We could just be guys. But you see the masks, and it gives you something else without having to say anything.
Yeah, that identity, but definitely a big hit, and I think they really jump off the page and off the screen. And you mentioned it earlier, and I think this picture was shot while you were over in Copenhagen, Denmark, making your debut for Nordic Elite Wrestling, if I'm not mistaken. And here's a picture here from your match. But I had to clarify with you before we went live. Now, this was not your international debut individually, but as Act 2, this was your international debut. I think it happened a few months ago in 2024 still, but a great opportunity. A company that's only just come onto my radar. But how did you get involved with Nordic Elite Wrestling over in Denmark? And tell us a bit about the experience, starting with you, Ben.
So they contacted us maybe about 3 or so months before that show. And I'll be completely honest, I thought it was a rib. I was like, what is this fake account that's messaged? Because I knew of Nordic Elite Wrestling, but I'm sure any wrestlers watching and stuff too, the mystery company accounts that have only just been made, and suddenly they want you and all this. So I did think it was just that, and I sent it to Jack, and I was like, and then I got speaking, and I realized, oh, this is like legitimate. We're like, wow, okay, and we got taken over for their Pride event, which was the opener for Copenhagen Pride Week. Which was just absolutely like mind blowing to us, and it's as an experience, and just sort of within wrestling and without of wrestling, it's one of my personal highlights of the year as well. That trip, like the trip to Denmark, was absolutely incredible, and all of the guys over there couldn't have been more accommodating and friendly, and everybody really wanted to make sure the show was great, and that's such a positive and happy environment to be in. And Denmark was such a beautiful place that we actually got to explore a little bit, which was so much fun as well. And we did the trip with Aiton Steen, who previously, before we went over, we were friends but weren't that close to, but he's the absolute best. And sort of getting to bond with him as well. as well as like we were sat on the plane going like, wow, we're being flown to wrestle. This is nuts. Like it's another one of the moments we talked about earlier where we're like, wow, okay, we've got to just go take a step back and think about how cool this is, you know?
Yeah, and what about yourself, Jack? Your Denmark experience, and I know Ben thoroughly enjoyed himself over there. I'm guessing that you did also.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's one of the best times we've had in wrestling. Full stop. Like we're absolutely itching to be back there. It was just so much fun. What Ben touched on there, just the whole like the vibe of the place. Just everyone really cares about putting on the best show possible, and like having that kind of environment backstage really like cheese you up to go out and give it everything you've got. And apart from the wrestling, we just had a real good time whilst we were out there. It was just like a holiday with your mates. And Aiton Stevens, the absolute man, got to be closer with Aiton, which is sick. And again, if we weren't lucky enough to be in that position where we're all over together, we'd still just be friends. Whereas now I see him as like a really good mate who it was cool that trip gave us that opportunity to get closer with someone.
Yeah.
Also,
I want to talk. Please carry on.
We need to bring Stumpnail over to England. So this is a drinking game. I was awful at Stumpnail, so I need to practice more here, so I'm better at it when we go over there. So this was a drinking game.
So he's
no, I don't. This is a drinking game in Denmark, where they just have a tree stump in the middle of this pub, right? And there's a hammer attached to it with a chain, and you can pay to have as many like huge nails as there are in your group, and you each go around trying to knock the nail into this stump in as few shots as you can, and if you don't make it in one, you take a drink. I don't drink, and I still managed to be the worst at Stumpnail. I was absolutely horrific. But we were really intrigued on what the actual name was for this game. So Jack went up and asked at the bar, and there isn't one. So there's just no name for this mystery Denmark drinking game that exists. And could you imagine giving British people hammer and nails in the pub? Like, just all of it was just so baffling, but it's a lot of fun. So I really understand why they have it, but my God, the health and safety is.
I can't see that happening over here. One moment, right? No chance.
Unreal.
It wouldn't last very long before the police were called. Put it that way. I want to switch subjects, and I want to talk about TNT. I want to talk a bit about TNT Extreme Wrestling up in Liverpool, because I think you made your debut for them about summertime last year. You've actually got a match for them tomorrow, haven't you? And you're packing, you're deciding what to take up to Liverpool with you. The Fusion nightclub in Liverpool for Cold Day in Hell, set to stun your opponents tomorrow. But I want to talk a bit about some of your other TNT experiences, and certainly having the match against Bussy last year. I think that was September. And some of the highlights from TNT there. You also had this past summer, I think it was Summer Explosion, so just a few months ago, where you had a shot at Lykos Gym's TNT World Tag Team Championships, and you're also part of Effy's Big Gay Brunch in September, where I think you actually got a chance, an opportunity to team with Effy during his Big Gay Brunch weekend, and we can see you there. Maybe a post-match shot, not entirely sure. But you know, TNT, you've only been there maybe a small handful of times, but you've had some great experiences, especially going up against Effy and Ali Catch, Bussy, of course, and more recently teaming with Effy as part of his Big Gay Brunch weekend up in Liverpool. But you've got another show there, another match there tomorrow. But TNT's, like I say, giving you some great opportunities, although you've only been there a few times.
Yeah, definitely. TNT is kind of becoming like a home away from home, which is cool. Especially, it all kind of boils down. Me and Ben are just massive British wrestling fans, so like being able to work for Chaos and Resurgence and these places. TNT is another one of those places that it's really cool, and you kind of we feel ourselves go in for that first one on eggshells, and we're like, oh, let's make sure everything's okay. And every time it's just the warmest welcome. Everyone's super cool. And yeah, from walking in really shy, making sure everything was okay, to now feeling like almost part of the furniture. And it feels like every time we're there, we get more and more comfortable. And hopefully we can be there more and more. Because as I say, I feel like we're really settling. It does feel like a home away from home for us.
Absolutely. And I've got to say, with how much he was mentioned just now, Effy is the man. Effy is the man. He is the best. One of the most absolutely insane personalities I've ever met in my whole life, but in a good way. And as far as TNT goes, something that we echoed on about Denmark as well. It's afforded us a lot more personal connections as well. Like for instance, wrestling Lykos Gym was a huge goal for us, and finally it happened sort of in the summer for TNT, and that was something that was so massive for us that again we kind of approached that so nervous and everything, and it's down to them boys as well. They're absolutely fantastic, and to be sort of put at ease in that scenario is so helpful. And we've been able to make really close friends with those guys through that as well, and Jack's been able to hate Doris more from being at TNT. So so there's so much that it's afforded us on a personal level as well as a professional one, that, like Jack said, it's we really feel sort of part of the furniture now, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had somebody else reach out to us watching us live at home. The country DJ Chris Simpson. Is that right? Yep, Chris Simpson. Did the fans in Denmark pick up on the Knudsen name?
They did indeed. The ring announcer pronounced it far better than pronounced. Better than I pronounce it, with it being a Danish name. He kind of corrected me on the name that I've been using for a good few years. I went, oh, it's Jack Knudsen, and he went, Knudsen, or however he pronounced it was beautiful, and I went, yeah, sure. You're right.
That ring announcer was so suave, by the way. You remember?
Was suave.
You remember how good he looked? I was like, wow. Incredible voice.
Cool,
I was like, he was the first person. He was the first person we spoke to. When we got there, he's the first person who walked up to us, and I was like, wow. If this is a sign of things to come, this is fantastic. What a dude.
Yeah. Also, moving away from TNT, but I just want to wish you all the best on your journey up to Liverpool tomorrow and your match against. Who was that against? Hector Stun, of course, and that'll be your match for opponents.
Mr. Moonsault. He'll be fuming.
Get it.
I want to stick with Liverpool and talk a bit about Atomic Pro Wrestling. And we mentioned Wrestling Resurgence earlier on. You're also Atomic Pro Tag Team Champions, if I'm not mistaken, 233 days.
We are indeed.
That's the one. In fact,
go on.
In fact, 1 second.
Oh.
Is
what a professional.
Here we are. Here we are. This is the real Atomic Tag Team Championship right here. Not quite. I'm not quite snatched enough for it to fit around my waist. But
I think I've got a picture there of them.
Here it is. Yeah, there we are.
There we go. I'm all sorted. I'm all organised. Wow. I'm professional. But I did try to find you with a picture of the Atomic bouts, and I could not find any at all, to be honest with you. So I don't know whether they actually exist. But I mean, tell us a bit about your experience with Atomic Pro Wrestling, because I think you've been part of their journey almost since their very first show, and you've been on nearly all of their shows, maybe apart from one or two, ever since. You've been their tag team champions for over 200 days, 233 days, according to cagematch.net. But tell us a bit about your experience with them, because it almost seems as if you've been just as much of a part of their story and their journey as they have of yours.
Absolutely. I adore Atomic. It's it feels special when you're there. Like, I know a lot of people say that, like, on X and stuff, and like, but there is just a vibe there. They've sold out every single show they've ever ran.
Really?
It's
Wow.
something that just they absolutely hit the ground running. And to be a part of that, again, from the very first show, we were in their first ever tag match. The Atomic hosted. It was us and Made to Last, and it's to go from there and, like you said, grow along with the show, and it being such a good show and such a unique environment, because they run at the Azvex Brewery, that is a incredible venue, and there's so much to Atomic that makes it unique, and I think that's why I believe it did just sort of blow up straight away, because there's so much there that just draws you in, whether it's the presentation or the actual wrestling, because it's almost exclusively wrestlers from the Northwest area. So there's a lot of hometown feel for the fans there, and a lot of the fans are fans of Atomic. They're not necessarily fans of pro wrestling in general. They are Atomic fans, and they come to see Atomic wrestling, and that's such a cool niche to have. And being a part of that is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, tell us a bit about your experience of being Atomic Tag Team Champions, being on their first show and all the way through, and being their only Tag Team Champions, I'm guessing. But and there you are with the mini belts. But seems like quite a special and a unique place to perform.
Yeah, definitely. It's been an amazing place. It's quite weird with Atomic. I think Ben would agree. Like, it kind of just felt great from the first one. Like, it's not somewhere where it feels like there's been massive differences made to make crazy growth, and then suddenly it's been this absolute like overnight success. It feels like they've just consistently hit the ground running from the very first show. There's just a really good team behind it of people who understand wrestling, and also I feel like the thing that is changing is they understand their audience more and more and more on every one of these shows. Hence why it keeps selling out. But yeah, it's definitely a very special feeling there. But it's just always been so well done. It's always been like professionally, we've always been very looked after there. But from like a fan aspect, I would very happily pay money to go and watch an Atomic show. They just every show is great.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about a bit about Atomic, but also about a certain tag team called the Quintessential, a tag team that you're both very familiar with. You wrestled quite a few times in the ring, big fans of by the sounds of it. But here are a few pictures of you guys backstage, and a tag team that I'm learning more and more about, and certainly. The more I do the TNT barbed wire shows, and I think at a recent Atomic show, you actually dressed as them and they dressed as you, which looks quite fun. But tell us a little bit about your relationship, your friendship, and kind of your working with Quintessential, and about the changing of the outfits as well. I'm quite intrigued, the kind of the thought process behind that and the story behind that. Tell us about it.
I adore Quintessential. So does Jack. I can speak for both of us. They
love them.
We both, not particularly through intention, but try to keep our very close circle quite small. There is a lot of there is a ton of negativity in wrestling that we're not going to bring into this podcast. But
no,
as far
positive.
Just absolutely. So as far as genuine good people, you're not going to find many better than Quintessential, I think. And to be even a small part of their journey within wrestling, because they are 18 and 20, which is disgusting because they're amazing. And to be any part of that is such an honor and a privilege for both of us. And to be as close with them as we are, from a complete chance meeting as well. It's it feels so special. We were their very first tag match as a team, and to be a part of that for them as well. Of course, they've grown up wrestling together, right? So to be able to be sort of that statistic for them, I guess, is so cool. And they're just the best. I could carry on with this for so long. I could glaze for ages here about them, but they're incredible. And Christy looks better in my gear than I do, and it's quite upsetting. Because although I could never commit to the mullet, by the way. I know it was a wig and it's not how real hair feels, but that is so itchy and warm that it's not for me.
Jack looks
Ben
like one of the
Potts-
Bee Gees, to be honest with you.
That's because Ben actually invested in his wig, and I thought, it'd be funny to just get a real cheap, terrible wig. That is the worst purchase I made this year. It was just horrible. It was like hay. It was just so sharp, and everything I did, it was in my mouth, it was in my eyes. It kept falling off. It fell off maybe 30 times during the match.
I like your sweet mutton chops, though.
The mutton chops were great. I had Christie's frog tattoo on my leg. We really committed. Pud did all my moves, which was great. All 3 of them. But yeah, those boys are the absolute best. Like getting to be closer and closer with them is something like really special. They're like I said to, I think it was to Pud the other day, I just wish we would have met them sooner, because it's like we haven't known them for that long in the grand scheme of things, and they're the best. Yeah, that just every time we get to wrestle them, we have the best time. Every time we just interact with them, we have the best time. That is the second time I wore Pud's gear. Me and Christy were lucky enough to tag as the Midnight Smiths in the Stockport Plaza. Unsuccessful. So the super team of Quintessential Night 2.
What's your thing?
Not very good.
Was it this?
Midnight Smith.
This way. Okay.
Midnight Smith, always this way. So I thought we had a few other ideas for what to do for the Halloween show, and then we thought we might as well just be them. So we got the mullets, drew on the mutton chops, which I would have grown if I had more time, but just had to draw them on for the night, and yeah, just had the best time pretending to be some of our closest mates.
So they were always going to be us, but I just want to put out that one of our ideas, which we weren't able to pull off, never say never, but one of our ideas that we weren't able to pull off was Billy and Chuck, which I think we've got like headbands, but we weren't able to like figure out the logistics of everything else. But as soon as we heard like they wanted to be us, and we're like, oh, we can't pass up being them. You know, plus I felt glorious in the hair.
But Billy and Chuck would have taken a lot more self-tan as well.
Exactly.
A lot more self-tan than you've ever encountered before. I want to take you from...
would have had to come to my house to tan me, and that's it.
I want to take you from that picture to this picture, and the most recent Wet Cake show, Wet Cake 3. And there you are, dressed as Aluna and Lucia Lee. Well, they are dressed as Act 2 or Act Lou, I think they were called on the day. But you've got a rich history with Wet Cake, and they've already had 3 shows. But that looks like a lot of fun as well. I don't think you wrestled Act Lou on the night, did you? I don't think it was a match or anything.
No. So I was a part of El Suspensioso. Pull back the curtain. I was El Generico on this show.
Right.
And Jack Knudsen was Jack Knudsen.
I had a really serious
and he had an absolutely fantastic match with Tommy Kyle. Because every Wet Cake show has one.
Oh yeah.
Every Wet Cake show has one, and it always has Tommy Kyle in it.
But this year I had to be in it.
So, and yeah, that was another thing. They, Lucia and Aluna approached us. We'd like to be Act 2, and we said only if we can be you too. So, actually, there was maybe a 3-minute window from that photo being taken on screen and my actual match on the show. So backstage would have been a picture and a half if anybody walked in, because Jack Knudsen is helping me into Lucille's ring gear.
Already dressed as a Luna Blue. So
Already dressed as a Luna Blue. You were dressed as a Luna for like 2 hours at this point. Like he'd been dressed as a Luna for a long time, and I'm being helped
really into the character,
into Lucille's gear. And I'm just saying, and I said it on the night as well, I really want some of the sleeves that she has, like the big sort of like flowy sleeve. Yeah, those are incredible. I was like, wow, no wonder you wear these. This is amazing. But yeah, everybody continues to look better in my gear than I do. So
what you need to do, Ben, is just search out a good gear maker that can do that for you. I'm sure you can quite easily. Some floaty sleeves.
We'll get there. I'm going to start taking gear from gear inspirations from everybody, but just like completely mismatch it. I'll have like one floaty sleeve. I'll have one like a Joshi sleeve with all the straps. I'll have the Zack Ryder half trunks. It'll be a disaster.
One kick pad, one boot, like Aiden Steen.
Yeah. Helsinki driver.
Steen, man. Like the Helsinki driver himself.
Let's bring up some picture of some more gold, shall we? And I'm sure we've mentioned these before, but the Elevation Tag Team Champions, or formerly, but I remember seeing you the day that you won these, when you did the double shot at United that same day, of course. Bringing that picture up prematurely, but tell us a little bit about Elevation, my apologies, because I think they're a company that's been around for about 10 years, and you only started performing for them earlier this year, and you had a good run as tag team champions there, but a fantastically run promotion, and they obviously saw something in you very early on, and you've been a regular fixture, a regular feature with them pretty much all of 2024, haven't you?
Yeah, we were at Elevation a lot. It was great to be at Elevation. Got to work with a lot of their already established teams there, which was really cool. A lot of their guys, I'd just like to massively shout out with the Twins. Bad Intentions are unbelievable. Such a great tag team, and I think 3 matches we ended up having with them, maybe 2, 3, and every time just they'd evolved so much from the last match. Just hard hitting, nasty guys, but what a tag team!
Yeah. And Ben, any thoughts about Elevation? And I mean, when's their next show? Have they got another show before the end of the year?
Yes, their next show is on the 8th of December in Mount Sorrel. They've managed to grow so much this year. Obviously, running Brockington College, which was an old LCW venue, and being able to sort of grow their reach outside of their sort of hometowns in a way, and it's down to the work that Dave Breaks and Joe Connors put in, not only training some of their guys that we've had the pleasure to work with, like the Twins, and just being in that environment again. It's somewhere like we said with Denmark earlier, everybody is there for the show. Everybody is there to put on a good show. They're there, they're enthusiastic, they're happy. Wrestling isn't a chore to anybody at Elevation, and that really shows in sort of their output as far as their in-ring product goes.
Yeah, and they put on a lot of shows. I think they put on easily at least monthly shows, sometimes twice monthly. But obviously a group that I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on. And I brought this picture up earlier on, but we want to talk a little bit about FUTR. And you are their only 3-time tag team champions. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think FUTR, they were the company where you had your first tag team match together, maybe 5 years ago or thereabouts. But after winning the championship for the 3rd time earlier on this year, you've decided that you are no more with FUTR, that you are kind of leaving it to the rest of the tag team roster to take that championship and the roster to new heights and the next level. But you had a good run with FUTR, and they're only 3-time tag team champion, and let's say a company that you have a long history with.
100%. And it felt right for us that it was the right time for us to move on. There's no hard feelings, nothing like that. It was just something we'd been considering, and like you said, FUTR gave us our very first opportunity as a team, the very, very first one, and we couldn't be more grateful for that and the opportunities we've had with them in order to grow. And they've been so instrumental in both of our careers so far, and somewhere that, you know, we got to work with some incredible people. And we had, on one of my favorite matches that we've had as Act 2, we wrestled Quintessential there. It went maybe 35 minutes.
Wow.
As part of one of their main events. And to get the opportunity to do that and sort of have the freedom to take that control and take those risks and stuff, it was so beneficial to us. And it did truly feel like the right time, because of course we have been there for so long, and we've been a fixture there for so long as well. It was essentially every month for around 4 years now. So it did feel like the right time for us to sort of step away and let people have the opportunities that we got in order to grow and in order to develop in a scenario like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to move on to United Wrestling, because that's the place where I've seen you the most. You mentioned earlier that we kind of don't bump into each other for a long time, and usually when we do, it's at United. And I think last year I saw you wrestle the Odyssey, Artemis and Adonis Payne, of course. And this year it was up against the Dog's Bollocks, the very same afternoon when you won the Elevation Tag Team Championships, your double shot. But United, a very unique company, a very unique venue. They typically run out of the Tap Social in Oxford, which is a brewery, for those that don't know. So very intimate, but very unique and very loud setting from the raucous fans there. But although you've only had a couple of matches with United Wrestling, they've both been absolutely fantastic matches against the Odyssey and against the Dog's Bollocks, as I mentioned. But you couldn't find two better teams, two better sets of opponents to go up against than what United have given you last year and this year with the Odyssey and the Dog's Bollocks. Tell us about it.
Yeah, definitely. They're not as well. Both teams aren't people that we really get to mix it up a lot with. Just kind of where we're based. So every time we have been down, getting to work with people who we don't usually work with is really cool. And you hit the nail on the head. The vibe there is very intimate. The crowd, both times we've been, have just been amazing, hanging on to everything you're doing. There was a dog there at one show, which was sick.
Yeah, there was.
The first show.
Shout
which
out.
Adonis Payne didn't say hello to. Says a lot about him.
It's one of the highlights of the show, having that dog there.
Exactly right. And me and Ben said hello to the dog. Adonis Payne did not. Terrible guy. But yeah, it's always so much fun. And then getting to be brought in as someone who they think will have a good match with their main tag people, and not to showcase what they can do, but also showcase what we do, is really cool. That we're thought highly enough that both times we've been in, it's been title matches. Unfortunately, both times we haven't been able to take the titles. There's something about that brewery that we're not very good in, but a brewery in Liverpool, we're great.
That's unlucky. That's unlucky. Go ahead, Ben.
Just to say about growth as well. We've been able to talk about ours, but I know that you've had him on in your bringbacks. Chris Aries growing as a character and a wrestler has been mind-boggling. Like we met him as Adonis Payne in around 2022, probably around the time that we had our first podcast, and the difference in him is night and day. And day. Couldn't say enough positives about his development and his presentation now. Just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I remember that very well, and I think that was a Sacrifice show in Bedford, where he was performing, and possibly you guys were there. It might have been the day when you won the Saints for Sacrifice Championships, but his growth, his development, and his presentation is just a complete world of difference compared to where he was even 2 years ago, maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. But you mentioned that you've been on the losing ends 2 times now at the Tap Social for United Wrestling. Third time lucky, maybe, gents. Third time lucky, and the Dogs Bollocks are still the United World Tag Team Champions. So there's a bit of beef there, maybe.
Definitely, I'd love another go at them.
We'd love to come back, and our custom titles would look way nicer than theirs. Just want to say.
Oh yeah,
it's got to happen. And another highlight, not from 2024, but from 2023, has to be this here, where the two of you went up against Subculture, Mark Andrews and Flash, for the TNA IMPACT World Tag Team Championships. And you can definitely see Jack definitely on the South Tan there, looking very. Or maybe it's just a hot afternoon in the King's Oak. But that must have been, I know, kind of tracking your socials, even in 2023, that was a massive highlight and accomplishment, an accolade for you guys to step in the ring with Subculture, with those championships on the line as well. But thinking back, that must kind of fill your heart with all sorts of love and joy and pride, having known that you faced those two in such an occasion for those championships.
It was indescribable. Like, I just still can't really believe it happened. It's something that I'm just so proud of. That, of course, like Jack mentioned something similar earlier. Wrestlers can be our own worst critics, 100%. But I think I've been lucky enough to be able to look back on that day and look back on that opportunity, and just feel sort of nothing but gratefulness about it. The domino effect that had to happen for that to even be a possibility is insanity. And as such, I grew up with TNA. I grew up with TNA. The pay-per-views were 99 pence on the BT box in around 2007, 2008. And I'd be able to watch the pay-per-views every month, and that's really where I sort of got into TNA, and that fandom never faltered. So to have that opportunity to wrestle for the TNA tag team titles, and like even getting to tell my parents that I was doing that was just unbelievable, because and I think I tweeted a picture of it as well. I was in the crowd at the TNA show in 2012, and Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez were the tag team champions. And there's a little clip of them on their entrance where you can see me, and I'm next to the TNA tag team title. And I tweeted that, and I was like, it's 11 years later, and I've wrestled for these, and getting to sort of tell my parents, I'm like, hey, remember how I wanted to be a wrestler? Well, look at this. That was so cool on a personal level as well. And like getting to tag with my best friend and experience that with him was just unreal.
Yeah. And what are your recollections of that match, that whole occasion, Jack? Oh, I think Jack might have frozen.
Oh no. The moment has gotten to him.
Never mind. I think it was my comment about the South Tan. But
he went to tan again so he could look like the photo. I'm
but we have had somebody reach out to us, and we've got Lucia Lee watching us live at home via YouTube. And Jack Knudsen stints so bad. You might have to add a bit of context to that. And Benjamin Harland is a gorgeous angel. So
I think that's why he left. He felt that comment coming.
He will be back. He
felt that comment coming. Thank you, Lucia.
Thank you so much, Lucia. We love you loads on the Wrestling with Jonas podcast. A former guest, probably one of my first guests from about maybe during lockdown 2020. It has to be. And Mr. Knudsen's back. Here we go. Just in time to read Lucia Lee's comments that came through a moment ago. Are you there? Can you hear us?
I don't know if I am back.
He's been so shaken by Lucia Lee calling him stinky that his technical.
Do you know what it was? It was just such a lovely, touching story and reminiscing on the Impact match. I just couldn't take it. So it wasn't unprofessional internet connection. It was actually, I just had to go and wipe a tear from my eye.
Oh, I see. You had to completely disconnect to do that.
Yep. It's the best way.
Thank you, Lucy. And we've also got Patrick Quinlan watching us at home. Jack Knudsen doesn't get caps for his first name and surname because he's a little bitch. But that's not very nice, is it?
I think it's because he doesn't have auto caps turned on his phone.
It's all good, but
I don't know. I thought it was really trendy and cool to turn them off.
Now, it's good that you've rejoined us when you have, because I want to talk a bit about this here. And we did have a question that came through, which I'll read out very, very soon. But of course, you've got a bit of history with New Wave Wrestling in Newport or Cardiff, because you had a couple of matches in 2023 against the Greedy Souls and against the Sunshine Machine. But then earlier this year, in about April, I had Flash Morgan Webster on the show as a guest. And he was talking about an injury that he had suffered, and that he actually recruited the two of you to help him in his recovery, to train with him and to, do various drills and to get him up to full speed. He was very, very complimentary of the two of you. And he mentioned that the two of you are also kind of quite a key feature as far as New Wave West Midlands are concerned. And certainly, Jack, you are one of the coaches alongside Flash and Mark Haskins, and I know that Ben, you train there as well, and I'm sure that you are, one of the ones that lends a hand and helps out with some of the trainees. But I'd say your relationship and your journey with New Wave, it started in South Wales, but it continues as part of the new academy, the new training school in the West Midlands. So tell us a little bit about that journey and how that started with Flash.
Yeah, the journey with Flash has been crazy, especially for Phil, myself, and Ben, big British wrestling fans, to go from just a guy that you watch on TV and also watching on UK Indies to then being friends with them. And it feels like that, like you say, with a lot of the Welsh scene. We've just been very fortunate that scene kind of took us under their wing and kind of looked after us. And it's no slight on anything we did previous. But me and Ben were just baffled by how nice it all is. There is no animosity in it. Everyone in the Welsh scene, and I do really feel like it's not just because I'm involved in the school. I feel like it's kind of the ethos of New Wave of just everyone trying to bring each other up. I don't think I've ever been surrounded by more positivity in wrestling than this year. And since we've been involved with New Wave, not just West Mids, but New Wave as a brand altogether. It's just been so positive for us. Obviously, personally, being able to coach has been literally the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's been so cool to pass on stuff that I've been able to pick up in wrestling to newer people, and then see these people progress and be able to get to a point where they go into Flash's intermediate group and then moving up to advanced and stuff is really cool to see that I can be even a small part of someone else's journey in wrestling. And yeah, it's so rewarding. I can barely even explain. It means the world to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Ben, are you just a trainee there, or do you help out occasionally with some of the newer recruits? Did you have a role to play with the coaching team, or are you just there to get better yourself?
I don't have a direct coaching role. I absolutely help out where I can. A lot of I'm not located within that area. I'm previously based in Manchester, so it's a little bit harder for me to sort of be there as frequently as Jack. But I make sure I make it a priority to make it there, because I can speak for both of us. We would not be the wrestlers and the people we are today without New Wave West Midlands. We just wouldn't. And from everything we've been afforded just from being around Flash and Mark Haskins and having the access to the Welsh scene, like Brendan and Danny Jones and Wild Boar and Nico Angelo and stuff, it's just so it's incredible that we get to take in all that knowledge, and it's something I'd absolutely recommend to anybody 100%. And seeing sort of, and on more of a personal level as well, seeing the pride that Jack has in coaching and his trainees, and being able to go and work with those people, and lend a hand where I can. But I see little Jack Knudsenisms in these students, and honestly, between Flash, Mark, and Jack, they couldn't be in any better hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've also had, we've spoken typically about your tag team acts too, but you've had some quite standout singles matches for New Wave West Midlands. And Jack, your title match against Leon Cage at one of their first shows earlier on this year, which I've seen, and it's an absolute banger, my friend. And for yourself, Ben, against Wild Boar more recently in another instant classic between the two of you. But getting the opportunity, and I know that on the experience scales, Leon Cage, he's still only 17, a couple of years into the business. Wild Boar, one of the very best in the whole of Europe. But still, the matches that you guys produced on the day, and having the opportunity to face those opponents in a New Wave West Midlands ring, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It's like that match is the only time I've ever been sort of so overcome after a match. I started crying at the merch desk. I don't know if anyone noticed, but my lack of merch covered it up because no one was coming up to me. But I was just so sort of overcome by everything that day. Like, you are not going to find many better than Wild Boar. You're just not. And to be able to experience that and have the opportunity to share the ring with him and learn from him, and to have such a visceral crowd reaction as there was that day, and the kind of acceptance of my peers when I got backstage as well, it was all just so overwhelming in the most positive way it can be. And it's an experience I genuinely don't think I'll ever forget. And to be able to do it, like the New Wave West Midlands venue that we've used this year is 2 streets away from where I grew up. It is literally one walk down the street and around the corner and you're there. And to be able to do that, and my mum was able to come, and she can't really travel, so for her to be able to see me perform in a match like that was so special to me as well. And just on my entrance, I'm standing on the turnbuckle, and the first people I see right at the back of the room watching and supporting me are Jack, Quintessential, and Luca Romeo. And I'm just like, that meant so much to me as well. And everything kind of about that was just so monumental for me that it's really hard to put into words, which is why I'm stuttering so much.
And Jack, Leon Cage, only 17, as I mentioned, but probably one of the standout talents, one of the standout young talents in UK wrestling. And just it's scary to think what he's capable of and what he's likely to be in, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, how good he's going to be. But that match you had with him was another special experience, wasn't it?
Oh, massively. Yeah, like you say, he is unbelievable. And like, I feel like it always comes into play of like, oh, he's unbelievable for his age. I think he's just unbelievable. There is people far, far older than him that can't do as impressive stuff. And I also think that is another. I think it's not taken away from him because he is just great and young, but it also gets taken away from him that he can do so many cool moves. He's actually just really good at the job, and he's really good at the way he paces things and the way he thinks about things. He's just all round an unbelievable professional wrestler. We're 2 for 2 on crying in main events. Because I had a big old cry in the ring when Flash came out and said some very nice words at the end of that match. But yeah, very similar, I imagine, to how Ben felt against Wild Boar. It was just so special in the city where I grew up to have the first main event for the New Wave show where I'm lucky enough to teach. It was just I was very stressed before it. It felt like I'd kind of built myself up and up and up, and I'm going, wow, it's a main event, and God, Leon's really good, and I need to go out and be good. And then, oh my God, all these people I respect are there, and oh, my family's there. And you kind of your worst enemy of just piling it on and on and on. And then by the end, where the match went off the way that it did, I was really happy with it. And the reaction from the crowd again. And yeah, it was, again, those shows are just really emotional, I think, especially for myself and Ben, but I feel like everyone involved. It all just comes back to how much stock people put into stuff and how much care people put in. And yeah, it's you can't really describe it. It's so magic. And like those moments of just at the end of that match being able to just look out for a second and go, oh wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming towards the end of the interview, I've got a couple more questions to go, but I'm going to jump to some questions. And Podrick Quinlan again, don't hesitate to say bitch in the future, Johners. He is one. Well, I don't like to swear on this podcast. It's probably only been a small handful, but there we go. That's I think that's
definitely
the last comment
definitely wasn't listening when he was being lovely to you.
Yeah, when I was being lovely,
you know.
But there will be no pies tomorrow. And there will be no
selective hearing. And No Mercy Wrestling watching at home. They can't wait to have Act 2 back in a No Mercy ring. And Harley Hudson's watching live at home. Well.
Oh my God, hello.
Thank you, Harley. I made a bit of a cameo last week when I had Nathan Angel on the show, so thank you for that cameo and a little bit of a catch up, another former guest of the show. But thank you, Harley Hudson, for watching. And jump into my last couple of questions. So we've covered a lot of ground from the last couple of years. From mostly your tag team career, but one or two singles highlights. Are there any kind of highlights or personal highlights or kind of proud moments or memories from the two of you that we haven't touched on that really kind of stand out that you'd like to draw some attention to? And I know, you made your debut for Rev Pro last year, and you've had matches with other great teams around the UK, but any other really proud moments that stand out to each of you that we maybe haven't covered so far?
I think a big one for the both of us was working for North. That was another real cool place that me and Ben have been fans of for a real long time. So yeah, the first time working North was crazy, and then being able to go back a second time was just so much fun. And again, just another place where you go in and you go, oh, this is somewhere that I've watched. You kind of get in the lay of the land, and then it turns out to just be another really welcoming place where you're looked after and everyone's sound.
I think one from my end as well. We were talking about the new Wave West Midlands shows. On their most recent one, we got to wrestle Love and Money, who's Lionel Da Silva and Luca Romeo, and we've both been there since Luca Romeo's very first training session.
Yeah,
and it felt. And he's someone I'm like incredibly close to. I'd call him one of my closest friends, absolutely. And to be able to share the ring with him and to share the ring with Lionel, who again I'm incredibly close with, after seeing and being a part of their journeys as well throughout New Wave and beyond was really, really special. It's something I'm always harassing people to take pictures, right? Because I'm a firm believer of always take the picture. And it's the one through the chaos of the day. We didn't get a picture, and I do regret that, because it is a match and just a scenario as a whole that I do hold quite close to my heart.
Yeah, it was a really special day to get in with those lads, especially seeing them from like when they first came to New Wave to where they are now, and again, not only seeing them grow as wrestlers, but seeing the friendship between us, to barely knowing the guys, to now them being two of our closest mates, to then get and wrestle two of your closest mates is always going to be really special.
Gentlemen, I think we are kind of pretty much at the end of this return of Act 2 on Wrestling with Johners. But before we go, I'd love you to kind of shout out your socials and where we can reach out to you. Now, scrolling along the bottom of the screens, I do have your individual Instagrams, your individual X accounts, and your joint X account. But I'll leave it to one of you to tell us where we can reach out, say hi, and learn more about Jack Knudsen and Ben Harland Act 2. The floor is yours, my friends.
So, we are very professional, have the same handles on every social media. Please, more people do that.
It helps.
But you can find myself at Sweet Prince BH, Jack Knudsen at Jack Knudsen01, and because for some reason this is the hardest handle to get in the world, on X as a joint account you can find us at act_2_, because there are far too many Act 2 random companies that exist that have taken all the good handles.
But the two of you do have a big cartel, but you haven't got anything on there currently. Are there plans to get more merchandise, more 8x10s, or maybe some more T-shirts? The fans want to know.
Yes, there definitely are. It's something that we're looking into. As far as merch at the moment, you can bag yourself a tiny Jack Knudsen tambourine at the merch stand. Exclusive two shows. Exclusive 2 shows
tomorrow.
It's always very heartwarming for us. We hear the start of our music play and we hear little tambourines go off in the crowd. That's something that's very cool. And they are something you can definitely find at the merch stand. And as far as sort of joint merchandise goes, stay tuned. We have almost too many ideas, which is probably why why we haven't settled on one yet. But yeah, it's definitely coming.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But gentlemen, Jack Knudsen and Ben Harland, it's been fantastic having you back on the show after nearly 2.5 years for this special episode. We're celebrating 6 years of Wrestling with Johners. It's been wonderful having you back on the show after all this time. But can't wait to see you at a show in the flesh to thank you in person somewhere down the line. Best of luck with your travels up to Liverpool and your match for TNT Extreme Wrestling tomorrow. But from the bottom of my heart, I just want to thank you so much for being wonderful guests yet again.
Thank you for having us, man. You're the best.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Take care, guys. Safe journey.